This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
I'm Taurus Freeman.
And I'm Kezzie.
Today we'll be talking to Coach John Bland. Coach Bland is a graduate of University of Arkansas. He attended grad school at the University of Auburn. Coach Bland is currently the new offensive coordinator for the SAU Riders.
We will also be talking to Japhet Makia, who is professor of English and General Studies, and also the School of Liberal and Performing Arts.
Coach Bland, Mr. Makia, growing up, could you give us a background view of where the two of you are from?
Okay, well, I come from Nigeria. I grew up in Cameroon, in a small village called Betok, Manyemen. I had my secondary and post-secondary education in Cameroon, taught French and English literature at a secondary technical school in Nigeria, and had my BA degree in English, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and my master's degree in English at Arkansas State University, Jonesboro, and now I find myself here.
Coach Bland?
Well, I grew up all over the state of Tennessee. I went through grade school and then ended up in high school in Knoxville, Tennessee, because my dad was also a football coach and moved several times during while the time I was growing up. Was lucky enough and very fortunate to get to play college football at the University of Arkansas, and then which helped pay for my education. Then I went from there and got my master's at Auburn University. Immediately after that, I coached and taught in high school for 2 years in Middle Tennessee, and then came here, and I've been here for 4 years.
Okay. Have the two of you noticed a difference in the atmosphere where y'all came from and the atmosphere in Magnolia, the college atmosphere or whatever, and the people in general?
Well, I come from a different environment from United States, basically. But the people are still the same, just human beings wherever we go. But culture-wise, there's a lot of differences in culture. Culture in Cameroon or in Nigeria, quite different from the culture here. I have a small story that I can say or tell about the differences in culture, food, people, things like that. The first time I came to United States, I went to a restaurant where I saw the list of menu, hot dog, and I was shocked because my tribe, we don't eat dog meat. And so all I thought was that people in America eat dog meat and it's still maybe hot, still in the oven. So I was pretty scared, and I quickly ran out of there. But it wasn't until late that I realized that it's just a name. Mm-hmm. And so many times where you go, how you find yourself, you have to try to fit into the society, into the culture of those people in order to be a part of that society.
Coach Bland?
Well, my view is very similar, and the people are the same. Of course, I've been to Tennessee, and I lived in Tennessee, and now in Arkansas, and it's not going to be much different. I've known people from Texas, and we're not that far off, I guess. But the size of the town would be the biggest difference. Of course, Knoxville is pretty big. It's very similar, maybe if not a little bit larger than Little Rock. And you're going to see differences just because of the size of the town. Magnolia is a small town. It's quiet. It's very clean. And that's what attracts a lot of people to that. And for a college, it can attract different types of college students also with different backgrounds. There's some people that go to college to have a lot of fun while they're going to college straight out of high school, and there's some that are more serious about their education. Not that those aren't. They go have a good time too. But this is a unique place in that way.
Okay, let's change the subject a little and talk about your careers. What qualities do you have that makes you an effective teacher?
I think I possess some pretty unique qualities, even though it is left more for the students that I teach to say more about my qualities. But I think I have specific qualities that help me in my teaching career. First, I try to instill a sense of responsibility to my students, and I let them know that it's important to have an education, but not just an education. I try to study the person, study the students. I go beyond the classroom. I try to find out maybe what underlying problems that a student might be having either at home. So many times at the beginning of each class meeting for each semester, I ask my students to write letters introducing themselves to me so I can get to know them more about their family background. And so that helps. It helps for me to connect, have a much more personal relationship with the students. And so with that, I think it helps me in my teaching.
For me, I guess one of my best qualities as a teacher, and I think this is it could be a quality for some students, and it might be not so much for others. But I relate to the students pretty well. I think that carries over into football, where as a football coach, we're dealing with student athletes, young men, every day, and we not only deal with them as on the football field, but we deal with their character, we deal with discipline, with also academics with college. In high school, of course, we didn't get to pick our football athletes. They came out for football, and that's the ones we were stuck with. Here we get to recruit, and we get to pick the ones that we feel like will not only be good athletes, but also quality students and good citizens for the city of Magnolia and for SAU. But I feel like getting out and recruiting and dealing with football is probably my biggest advantage as being a teacher also, and that helps.
There have been rumors and stuff, it's been going on for years, I guess, since athletics in school, that student athletes are more lax in the classroom than other students. Do you think there's some type of quota or something that everybody thinks jocks are dumb? You know?
Well, I can say this, the NCAA has really cracked down on student athletes, and they've made it more difficult for student athletes to, if they're going to be eligible to play football or play any sport, then they've got to have a certain grade point average to even get to play. And while they're here at college, they have to maintain that certain GPA. We were just down there just a few minutes ago working on grades and trying to keep people above a certain GPA so they were being allowed to play. So the pressure on football players is a little bit higher. Not if they want to continue to do that. They also have advantages, whereas if they are eligible to play and if they're good enough, that can help pay for their school. And they can use football as a way to help pay for that education to get a degree. But you know, they also spend a lot of time outside of academics. If they're and that time that they spend is very tiring. They're in the weight room working out. They're on the field knocking heads, and they're getting after it, and in the basketball courts and volleyball everywhere. But they're spending a lot of extra time where other students are able to be in the labs and getting extra work done. So it is more difficult to maintain the same grades. And those that can do it are very special people, and I commend them on that. It's very tough to do, but I think, you know, SAU has done a real good job. We push grades, and not all the football players are going to be geniuses, just like all students aren't going to be. Every student we have, on the average, football players and the ones we do, probably because the NCAA pushes us so hard, is probably just as high as the average of school or better. I know compared to the Gulf South Conference, it's we're at the top according to GPA. Athletics is in the Gulf South Conference. So I think at SAU we're doing a good job with that.
Mr. Makia, I know Africa is known for a soccer country and stuff. Do you find the benefits of playing athletics as compared to being getting an education? You know, is there similarities?
I think there are many similarities to become an athlete and an academician at the same time. many similarities, because in every of these elements there's a sense of competition. You're competing to be the best student, academic student that you can ever be. You're competing also to become the best athlete that you can ever be. And so there's a close relationship there. As Coach just said a few minutes ago, athletes seem to have a big load with them, that they carry a heavy load with them, for the simple reason that they spend so much extra time preparing for any ball game. And then they go to the ball game. Some of them travel. Sometimes they travel out of town, come back very late at night, very early in the morning. They have to get ready and go to school, and so it's pretty tiring. And so it takes a special person that has a special determination to succeed, to make it as a successful athlete and as a successful academician. And so the two actually relate. I think one can become a better student in the classroom as an athlete, because if he can transfer some of his energy in the athletic program into the classroom and work as hard as he works in the athletic activity, he can become a much better or much successful person.
Well, do you think professors are too hard on athletes who have to miss class for a game? Because I've heard, some professors complain a lot and they really crack down on those athletes. Do you think that's fair?
Well, I would say if they, it should be cleared, there's all kinds of things that people have to miss class for, not just athletics, but there's, choir and different activities.
Work.
That's right, and work and things that if people are serious enough about getting an education and they put their, if they're not missing class other than the ones that they just have to and they can't work around it, of course they need to keep it to a minimum, but I think they need to be lenient in those areas. Of course, some people, like Taurus said, was with work, with a child, a sickness in the family that they're not even missing, those type of things I believe need to be looked over and be worked around. They can be worked around, and the work, just so the work is made up.
And to add to that also, we have some students, not many, but there are some who actually use the athletic activity as an excuse, to not perform in class, to be late in class, to be absent unnecessarily without any major reason. And so there are some who use that as an excuse. And we have professors, I have been one of those who has been particularly strict for students who try to look for excuses when there should be no excuses in that ground. Right. But we always try to accommodate them. We try to work with them all the time.
What special skills or experiences are you willing to share with your athletes or your students?
Well, our skills on the football field, is that what you mean? Mm-hmm. Well, of course, each in football, we're kind of lucky, at least at the college level. I know some high school coaches are not. But at the college level and at most high schools, we have enough coaches that we can be pretty focused on a minimum amount of skills. On the football field, of course, I work with the quarterbacks and have just been named offensive coordinator, which I've worked with some other people too, running backs and wide receivers some, but we have a coach that does that, teaches them the skills. And I'm able to do that with the quarterbacks, which we can be a little more, the players coming from high school will get a little more quality coaching. Not that their coaches weren't good, but in high school a lot of times they play offense and defense. They play more than one position, and so they learn a lot of basic skills. And now we can be more focused and on those and fine-tune those things to make them a little better player.
Yeah, with sometimes it's difficult to teach somebody skills when the person is not ready to learn those skills. But it has to be a partnership between the teacher and the student. And skill many times is learned from an early part, early childhood. I have two kids. One is 12, Alicia Makia, and the little boy, Japhet Makia, is 9. And for this summer, I've given us an incentive for them. I'm going to give them some incentive. I don't know what it's going to be yet. But each one of them will have to read 10 books, 10 novels, and summarize 5 of the 10. And then the other 5, they will tell us what the story was about orally. That is skill. You're teaching these children right from the beginning how to have the discipline to read and summarize. And at the college level, I do just about the same thing. I encourage my students to read, and write. It is only by that means that they can learn the basic skills to achieve in English and maybe in any other field.
Well, both of you are very good at what you do. How did you come to choose your career?
Well, initially I had not planned to teach for this long. Earlier I had thought of becoming study languages, modern foreign languages, but I realized that that was not what I was going to do. As I said earlier, I taught French in French and English literature in Nigeria from 1977 to 1980. I thought teaching was quite exciting. And so when my other desire to becoming a foreign language specialist, to work with maybe some foreign embassy, when those hopes were dashed, I thought teaching was a very good field for me to concentrate in. And I've been teaching here at this college full-time for 7 years. It's exciting.
Coach Blaine?
Well, when I went to the University of Arkansas, I started off as a communications major, and that was about a year after that, and I decided to change. My dad was a coach and a teacher. My mother's a teacher. I enjoy being around football. I enjoy being around student athletes and students, period, young people, and so I decided to change that time, and I did, and have really enjoyed it. When I got my master's at Auburn, I was a graduate assistant football coach with Coach Pat Dye, and that was a great experience for me, and have really been blessed in the opportunities I've had. I got an opportunity to coach in high school and teach in high school and now at the college level. And not saying I'll be here forever, but I really have enjoyed it. And I've never looked back and say I wish I had done something else, that's for sure.
In today's times of education, the value of education is kind of falling off. With both of you having masters, how important is it to get an education for the younger students and freshmen and elementary kids alike?
We're living at a time when education is constantly becoming very, very important to succeed in our current society. The future of this country, this great United States, lies in education. If our kids now don't learn that to become very well educated, the greatness of this society, the greatness of this United States, that is today as the world leader, will dwindle into nothingness. And so it's essential. So when I teach my students, I instilled in them the need for them to become very well educated. There are so many opportunities in the United States, opportunities that are not found in many other countries. It's virtually free education in this country compared to where I come from. And so it's essential for the students to work hard as much as they can. If a student comes to college and said, I am a student, I want to have an education, I think it's better for the student to spend as much energy and time and effort as he can. Because the government, the country, the society, the community, especially here at Southern Arkansas University, the community is so much in tune to education. There are so many good programs here in this university that if students were to devote themselves, they will become very well educated.
Another part of that is when we're dealing with athletes, And I think it goes back to your question when they said, how important is it when you see athletes in high school going straight to the NBA, and we have some going straight to the major leagues. We haven't seen any go to the NFL yet, but making a lot of money and skipping the college education to do that. And a lot of student athletes who don't take school serious while they're in college because they're planning on playing in the NFL or the NBA. And they look back. I can say this. First off, there's a very low percentage, less than 1% of those student athletes who get to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then there's a very low percentage of those who make it who last more than 2 or 3 years. So making a living out of playing football is not a very good idea. It is. It might help make some money, but it's also, even if you make it to the NFL, there's always a chance of getting injured. And those people can hit pretty hard. You get injured, now you're stuck without an education. That's why another reason to take the education. And those that do take the education seriously in college, those that do will also be more disciplined, and they'll probably be a better success in life, and probably be able to, if they do make it to the NFL or NBA, be more successful at that level also.
Okay, there was one person I remember around about 5-6 years ago, or maybe longer, Dexter Manley. Here's a young man who went to college, went to the NFL, was all pro. He couldn't read or write. How do people like that slip past the system?
Well, they either cheat their way through, or teachers give them too much slack and let them get through, and that's wrong, and that shouldn't happen. That's not only wrong for the university, but it's doing Dexter Manley wrong. He gets out of the NFL, and I'm sure he would rather have somebody bear down on him and made him learn how to read. He would have appreciated that a lot more, and the best time to do it is when you've got that free education. And he was on full scholarship, I'm sure, and got his education paid for, and you make something out of that. That would be the best opportunity for him.
Yeah. There's a character in the play that I'm revising right now, Pastor Uka, Carlo, the pastor's son. He's not doing well in school at all, and he's been performing very poorly. And so one of his friends is going to advise him to go visit a voodoo doctor to help him, give him some brain pills, so he can take those pills and become very well educated, become smart. And so he's going to do that, but he's going to meet his doom. Whereas his younger sister is studying very hard and is performing very well. And once the play comes out, I would like for you to read it and see it deals with those same elements of students who don't want to achieve, who want to use other methods to go through school and complete school, they come out without education.
Okay. Let's get on the issue of athletes as role models. Do you think the athletes who have bad reputations, like Dennis Rodman and some of the other guys, do you think they're treated too leniently by authorities or too harshly?
Well, I think they're treated a little too lenient. I would say that's the owner's responsibility. Although, let's say Dennis Rodman, he's a heck of a basketball player. He does a great job on the court. But all the extracurricular activities, you look at, say, a businessman, you look at, say, a head coach at a major university, anyone who is in the limelight or who is very noticeable, that doesn't happen. And he's taken advantage, I think, of that opportunity to sell his books and that kind of thing. But the owner's responsibility, they're the ones that pay them the money. And they also could not pay them that. They could say they're not going to pick them up, but then if they didn't, somebody else would. They got to all get together and decide on this is the type of character people we want. Not saying Dennis Rodman doesn't have much character. I know he does. In my book, of course, I'm not a big fan of him, but I think it's their job to do that.
Yeah, I think there's another problem here where athletes are used as role models. I think it sends the wrong message to children, especially those growing up from the elementary school to high school to college. It sends the wrong message. I think the true role models should be the parents of the children, should be their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, their uncles, should be the teachers, should be their classmates who strive to succeed. And so when we start looking at athletes, at Michael Jordan, who is a great athlete, and some of those other guys as role models, it sends a bad message, a wrong message, I think. Because you see some of the student athletes here are hoping to become a Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or the young Tiger Woods now coming off so well. It doesn't normally happen like that. And so the role models are all within us that children should try to emulate.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.